Hello and welcome into the KE Report. I'm your host, Shad Markwitz, and today we're getting an update from Dryden Gold Corp. Dryden is traded on the TSXV under the ticker DRY and on the OTCQB under the ticker DRYGF. I'm joined today with the president of Dryden Gold, Maura Kolb. And Maura, it's great to get you on the call, as always, to get an update on some of the exploration you're working on at your Gold Rock camp. This is in the Dryden Gold District of northwestern Ontario. And you've got three key areas at this larger Dryden Gold District, but we're dialing in to the Gold Rock camp, and within that, we're dialing into the Elora Gold System. And so in this area, you've done some drilling last year. This is part of a 15,000 meter program that the company has, but you put out some news on April the 8th, and it's got some zesty photos in it, which we will get into, but there's a hole that you put into the system, and it came back with visible gold. This is part of that Archean lode gold system, and so it looks enticing when I see the drill core in this photo, and I will include a photo of that down below this interview for people following along, and I will put a graphic in there that you've included that shows this whole 003 and where it kind of crosses through this Elora gold system. But walk us through what you're seeing here in this hole. At least we know there's gold in it, Maura.
Yes, we definitely know there's gold in it. I mean, I got a pretty excited call on the weekend when we hit this from the team. It's some pretty spectacular gold. What is very, very exciting about this is that this is in a whole new zone for us. So, since we started drilling in last year, we've been expanding the Gold Rock system. We do complete sampling, so we're able to see zones that the previous operators didn't, because they didn't really look at the sheared basalts. They were only looking at vein mineralization and only sampling that. So this is another exciting discovery for us, because this is sitting 80 meters in front of the Elora target that we've been hitting great results on, like 30 grams over 6 meters. So pretty good stuff. And now this is 80 meters in front of that. So now we have two different targets we can hit with the same holes. So on this hole, KW 25003, we hit this at about 200 meters true depth from surface. And then beyond that, another couple 100 meters down hole, about 80 meters horizontally away, we hit the main zone that we were targeting. So it's really exciting to have something new like this, and to see that these other hanging wall, footwall structures, can be really fruitful. And in this case, some pretty spectacular gold. So really exciting for us.
Well, so you're hitting two birds with one stone here because you hit this intercept before the main target you're going after. That's kind of nice that you can do that. And you've done that before in prior drill seasons where you've been able to hit multiple targets with one drill hole. As I look at the graphic, though, you're coming in from an angle. I know that you just in February released the news to the market that you've got the permits to now get on top of some of these structures. Are you going to just drill this target from up above and just drill down into the guts of it, or do you think you could move it? Where are you drilling from at this point in time?
So right now we're still drilling on the patented claims where we have pads already built. So we got the exploration permit in hand very late February. And from there, we've gone out into the field to the planned drill pad sites. We took pictures. What we do is we send those off to the First Nation communities that we're working with to give them kind of a view of where we're putting the pads, what the terrain looks like, and basically work with them to tweak these sites if there's something that we don't want to use those sites for, like traditional plants or cedars or something like that. So we have this really robust process with the communities that we're working with to make sure that everybody's on the same page before we put a drill pad in. So we've gone out to the site, started working on the plans for the new pads, worked with the communities a little bit so far, and we're ready to start building those new pads here. So we'll be able to move up kind of on top of this. But what's exciting is this was a structure that we thought there would be a hanging wall structure, but we really hadn't seen anything incredible like this in it. So now we can tweak our plan a bit to be able to sit and target this new structure, as well as the main Elora structure we have been hitting from a perfect angle. So it's exciting. And you probably, if you've looked at the pictures, you'll see that not only is the gold pretty coarse in this, but it's also, you see some folding in the vein. So we've been taking careful measurements of that so that we can add that into our interpretation. We do feel that There are key controls of high grade in the system, one being the intersection of different faulting structures, like the main shearing and the faults that are older here. That's an important trap. One of the other traps we've been hypothesizing, but we hadn't had evidence of, is folding being one of the traps that has gold pool. So seeing that in this core and this, very fantastic, significant amount of gold here, it really starts to give us that check mark that that other theory we thought would be true is. So we'll be adding that into our interpretation as well. So we'll kind of set up to do a little more geologic homework, so to speak, and then we'll start to target this new structure as well. So that's kind of what the team here on site where I am today is busy working on.
Yeah, nice to see the thesis play through, and that folding being a trap for the gold also gives you an indication of maybe how you can follow up on this target. Now, I noticed that this hole, Mara, is 003, so does that mean it's the third hole, or is this the first hole of the season? Where are you at as far as the holes you've drilled so far?
We're actually getting towards the end of hole 5. We started drilling a bit in February, took a break for PDAC, and we've been back on full force, and we don't intend to take any more breaks now. We're going to go right through into summer and fall. So we're finishing up hole 5, so busy, busy here at site. So there'll be lots of news flow coming out kind of just regularly as we continue to drill.
Well, and maybe let's unpack the significance of getting those permits in late February to be able to get onto some different locations. Because in addition to this area that we're discussing, you still have some pretty zesty targets at the Laurentian mine. And then there's also a cross-cutting structure from something you saw in the Big Master system that maybe goes across, and you think it maybe could be on the Elora system as well. So let's talk about where these permits allow you to move some of these pads for the balance of this program.
Yeah, so now we can start drilling to the northeast on this Alora Gold system. It's exciting because I've been out to all of those pads for both of those targets you just mentioned, and we're very close to ready. So it's just getting the drill plans finalized, especially with this new information that we've learned to make sure that we integrate that into our plan. So something that we've always done and we'll continue to do is as we get new data, we integrate that into our interpretation so we have the best chance of hitting high grade. And I think that's one of the things that helps kind of set us apart and doing that systematic exploration is showing so far to be fruitful. So we'll keep doing that. But I'm very excited to get up to the Laurentian mine. I mean, if you heard me talk before, you've heard me say that its average grade was 14 grams per ton. So we've been thrilled to get the permits. I've been up to those pads. They'll be easy to start up drilling there. So yeah, it's coming along. It's very exciting.
Well, it looks like in this press release you're mentioning, and we've talked about this briefly in the past, that a lot of these holes, the true depth's going to be around 250 to 400 meters. This hole that we were just discussing was actually a little more shallow than that, only 200 meters. But about how many holes do you think you'll get into this program out of the 15,000 meters? Do you have a rough idea?
The plan is kind of always evolving because some of these new areas that we want to test up by Laurentian Mine and that intersection that kind of comes across from the very high grade on Big Master and then has been untested on the Elora Gold system, we'll start with those shallow. And what we want to do is work our way down as we can get a lot more, bang for our buck with shallow holes, but we want to show that there is depth potential here. So it's kind of a two-pronged objective that we have this year. We want to expand along strike, testing some of these new undrilled target areas where we think there's all the right traps or all the right ingredients for a high grade structure. And then we also want to show that we have a true Archean system that goes deep. The goal is to get to 500 meters. The holes that we are drilling and we have planned, and they're in the long section from the press release right now, are getting down to 400 meters. The one that's coming up, I believe it's hole 6. So, it's a balance of both. We'll be able to get more holes if they're shorter than the longer ones, but we do want to show that we have that depth potential. What's exciting is that because of these hanging wall, footwall structures, the fact that they're kind of stacked or parallel structures, we can do multiple targets on one hole. So the new zone that we intersected on hole 3, we intersected that zone shallowly at about 200 meters true depth, but the main Elora zone that we've been targeting, we intersected that closer to 350 meters. So we can test multiple things, which it makes it very dynamic for us.
Yeah, and I think it's also important just when we are talking about the depth component, just to remind people, some of the models you're working off of come from the time that you and some of the geologists worked in the Red Lake district. And so it's a similar analog. Also, you could throw in Kirkland Lake and Timmins as other analogs where those systems go deep.
Yeah, they truly do go deep, and they're usually very consistent on what we call plunge, but basically at depth. With the other real similarity I was seeing here, when if you ever have a chance to look at the models of the Red Lake mine, the structures are very, very stacked, one on top of another. So you can actually intersect several, with one drill hole. And that looks very similar to what we're seeing here as we keep finding these additional structures that are parallel to the major ones. That just gives us more potential ounces in a future resource. So it's very exciting that we were able to intersect such great gobs of gold, frankly, in hole three. And it's just really pushes the fact that we want to continue to hunt for these and be able to predict these hanging wall structures.
Well, speaking of the gobs of gold, a lot of people listening will probably wonder, when will you see assays on something like this? So you've drilled about 5 holes so far. What's the turnaround time on the assays look like, Mara?
So turnaround from drilling the hole to getting assays is about 8 weeks. With this, we're going to try to move that along a little faster because, of course, we're eager as well to see what these results are and start to integrate that into our drill plan. But that's our typical turnaround time here.
Well, and while we're talking about this project, we should also make a note that you have, like I said, 3 distinct areas. I mean, really, you have a lot of areas. This is a huge land package, but you do have these 2 other areas, the Sheridan and the Hinman areas that are not part of this Gold Rock system. And you also put out some news just at the end of last month on March 31st that you did receive your drill permits for the Sheridan property. And so, in addition to the work you're going to be doing at Elora, at the Gold Rock camp, you're also going to be drilling later this summer at the Sheridan target. Let's maybe bring that into the equation just to show people you got a lot of different targets here as a company.
Yeah, Sheridan's exciting. We've worked on a geologic model and a mineralization model for that. Based on the mapping that the team did last summer, the same geologist interpreted all of that. We have some pretty good drill targets based on that. We're excited about the drill permits in hand. We expect to start drilling that in June. So as soon as we get snow melted and everything, we should be out on that. For Hinman, which is the target on the east side of the property, we are in the final phases of planning more mapping there that will help us to really fine tune and be able to create a model for drill testing that in the fall. So it's pretty exciting to have all of these different targets ready to go this year and the money to test them.
Yeah, it's nice to have both the targets and the money. And so it's going to be an exciting drill program when the company's able to not just crank out results like the ones that you're doing currently in the Gold Rock camp, but also at Hinman and at Sheridan. And you got permits on 2 of the areas. And it's just going to be exciting to follow along with the work at Elora, like we're talking about now that you have the permits to get into some of these other targets, as we've alluded to. So it's going to be a full drill season for really most of this year. So you're gonna have drilling, drilling, drilling. Anything else you want to say about the exploration program goals or targets for this year that you want investors to be clued in on?
We'll just keep watching for more results. Our plan here is really to show that we can consistently deliver high grade. We want to expand Gold Rock both at depth and along strike. And then we want to show this potential in these other targets as well. So we'll continue to put out news as we understand the new targets and as we get results from them.
Okay, well, I think we'll wrap it up there for today, but it's exciting to see these photos. And again, I'll include those down below in the show notes, as well as a cross section and a map so you have a general orientation of the hole that we've been discussing. But lots more holes to come, and it sounds like not too long of a wait for the assays to come as well. So, Mara, great having you on the show as always. And for those listening in, if you want to follow along with the news at Dryden Gold, definitely click on the link below in the show notes. It takes you straight over to their website, right to their news section, where you can sign up for updates or just follow along with the assays and the drill core as they drop. And Mara, keep us posted. We'll get you back on for an update. As always, looking forward to our next conversation.
Awesome. Thank you.